has a responsibility to provide clean water. That's one of the things that they are supposed to provide. The government is not supposed to
talking about
provide
the Flint crisis in
health
general.
services and lockdowns and stuff like that. It's just an extra thing that they do. That's not something that they have to do.
I'm not really talking about like the Flint crisis in general, but just like what Obama did was like he showed up and he's like, the water is great, and then they're like, how about you drink it to prove that, like, if you put your money where your mouth is, and then he just kind of fake drunk it, and like it's exactly what she's doing here. She's putting all these people up, and she's refusing to face the same risks that they face.
Yeah, okay,
because she knows it's bad.
That's kind of hypocritical on her part, but
she's insane, especially when death is at stake.
She's a mayor, though. She's probably been going to meetings and stuff. Like, she's probably had more human contact than the average person in the past 3 weeks.
I mean, you don't know that, and B, like, it's probably a lot more, like, probably a lot safer. Looks like she's also had some alcohol contact as well, though. You never know.
That did seem like that.
That's not out of the question. Yeah. So it's just like,
her husband was a mafia lawyer. Also
really?
A mayor of Las Vegas as well.
I know that. Like, didn't they have a lot of like mafia presence in Las Vegas? Or no?
Yeah, but he's no connection currently to the mafia. He was just a lawyer too.
Oh, he was like a lawyer for the mafia?
Yeah, it's not really in the mafia.
Yeah. Yeah, coronavirus, we can talk about that. What is there anything else? Like we're getting down. So do you think, like, what would you, if you were in charge of the government, like what would you want to see happen right now?
Well, I would definitely start to open up. I would make it so that like people who are at risk of this virus, at serious risk, they know they're at serious risk. So I would leave it up to everyone's discretion whether or not they want to go outside. I would definitely reopen up business one at a time. But I think it is.
But then who
want to
would
get
come,
into
though?
like corruption? What businesses are deemed essential and what businesses aren't? It's crazy that Home Depot is still open, but the local, you know what I mean? Like all the essential businesses are like these big chains.
Still going on.
Like, why isn't it the little Chinese restaurant down the street considered essential, but Chipotle is? You know what I mean? It's all big chains that are essential right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can do that. That's true, but I've seen a lot of people do like curbside orders like that aren't chains. Like if you can do, if you
I think so.
Food.
That's interesting. Well, you know the fine for continuing business right now and violating social distancing?
What's the fine?
It's $20,000. So
Really?
that's crippling for a business right now.
That is pretty.
I think that's ridiculous to punish businesses for staying open right now. You know what I would do? I would continue the lockdown, but I wouldn't enforce it. So that if you want to leave and go, and like if a business is struggling and they need to reopen to stay alive, they can.
But that's where we supposedly have this small business fund now, like to get to these small businesses and help them. I'm saying that the bailouts and the oversights are. I'm not saying they're going to go too specifically to small businesses, but like just because of the corruption of our government. But I'm saying it's something possible that we can do.
Because when you bail out a corporation, you're just giving it to one. It's just one LLC. But like when it's a bunch of small businesses that you have to bail out, you have to give it to like thousands of accounts.
I mean, if we're going to do it with the entire country and stimulus checks, I think we can do it with small businesses.
That's true. That's a good point, but
thank you. I'm getting a
good
lot of
point.
good points out there.
Yeah, I would totally love to see aid to small businesses, because if the people get aid, then small businesses should definitely get aid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's definitely true. And I think the idea of the people like France, like what they did in terms of paying UK paying like 80% of their payroll, the business's payroll.
Yeah, but
I think
UK
that helps everybody.
They have stuff backing their dollar. It's not just printing money when they do that.
What do you mean?
UK, I think they have the silver standard. I have to check, but like UK, when the British government like writes out a check, they're not just willing that money into existence. It's coming from a reserve somewhere.
So
that they're
are
actually
not
giving value. They're not giving just currency. Because when the U.S. government writes a check, that's just currency. There's no actual value behind that. They're just writing more dollars into existence.
And there is some sort of like other backing of British currency?
It's like a whole banking system that backs it. It's super sketchy. It's way above my pay grade. It's like people go to college to learn that stuff. That's like 6 years of learning. But
the Royal Bank.
Yeah. But here, wait, British. I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, and it's like I think that just like the paying people, like government assistance is, I think, the third way that other people are saying. But I really just get the sense that at least on the Democratic side, like all they want to do is just do enough to kind of bring it back to normal. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, well, I think one problem that we have is so like Sweden, like what I was saying before, is like everyone's worried about the second wave. The only reason we have this risk of a second wave is because we acted so drastically that now going back to normal is such a huge jump.
Wait, so how would us locking down increase the possibility of a second wave?
So I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that when Italy did open up after their lockdown, when Florida did open up after their lockdown, there was an influx of coronavirus cases. Now, I do think that was like, what?
It wouldn't be because they opened up too soon? Like, Florida should definitely not be opening up, like, recently. Anytime recently, at least. I don't know about Italy.
No, because what Fauci was saying, I'm starting to trust Fauci less and less as I find out about his dealings with China in the past. But what Fauci was saying is that when the curve flattens, like even though the curve is flat, when you come out of lockdown, you risk it going back up, no matter what.
Did he say why?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like, yeah, we don't really know, but I mean, I guess it's like, I do get because I kind of get what you're saying. Like, if my instincts kind of tell you to like listen to, at least pay attention to and understand what like you more skeptical people are saying. But then I look at it, it's just like, I mean, I don't see any reason why we don't like trust these people. Why we don't like trust people like Fauci. Like, I don't get. I do get skepticism like the WHO or whatever.
That's
I do get that.
Yeah,
but...
well, the WHO is a whole, like Dr. Tedros. So his origin. So he was the Politburo of the Ethiopia, some like Workers' Party for People's Liberation or something, basically a communist party. Yeah. And when he was Politburo, he negotiated like getting Belt and Road funding from China for Ethiopia. He was praised for his relationship with China. That was his whole thing as Politburo. Then he goes into the WHO. It's the funniest thing in the world. You have to look it up, the interview of him getting sworn in, because it's so obvious that everyone there is a doctor and he's not. And they're asking him all these medical questions like about the developing world, and he's just like, yes, may you repeat the question, please? Yes, may you repeat the question, please?
So he just doesn't know a lot about.
And like the only reason he's in there is because he's so dumb. And he's not even a real doctor, and he calls himself a doctor.
Is he actually not a real doctor? I didn't know. How do they let people like who get in there like to the top of their chain become a doctor?
Because the WHO is reliant on China for funding.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like to be fair though, like we have plenty of organizations that are funded by
the Goodwill Ambassadors, the WHO. It's real goodwill.
Yeah, he's the first non-physician. Dr. Tedros Adhanom. And then how does he call himself a doctor?
Because he's a fraud. He wants people to take him seriously.
Like, does he actually have a PhD? He's a microbiologist.
No.
And an internationally
I think he has a
recognized
PhD
researcher.
In, like, philosophy or something.
That is whack. He was the Minister of Health of Ethiopia.
Yeah, that was after he was Politburo, though. That was just because he had power, and he's like, oh, what position is there for me?
Well, he did well, it looks like, because the health indicators went up.
When he was the Minister of Health, he covered up a bunch of cholera outbreaks. And he did that in the WHO, too, with malaria. Covered up a malaria outbreak in Africa.
Because he wants to make things look good?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I've kind of heard it described as like a think tank for like doctors, just kind of like a career boosting like location. And I do think there's like a danger that people fall into, like liberals, that really makes them look stupid. Like if something is objectively bad and you kind of know it's bad, but Trump also hates it, like you don't need to start praising it as well. And that's like that could be a tough thing for a lot of people to fall into. Like Michael Avenatti is a great example.
I think that's one of the biggest problems that Trump has right now is it's not even his fault. It's just how much people hate him because he's out here saying like, listen, we need to stop funding the WHO. They don't have our best interest in mind. It's clear. And then everyone puts on their Instagram story, oh my God, our president is shaming the WHO in the middle of a global pandemic. He wants people to die. But that's just not the case. The WHO is corrupt. You can't.
Yeah, but if you like defunding them in the middle of a pandemic, it's just kind of point. Like, why are you worried about the WHO? Like, they're kind of they just kind of gather information. They're not a very like you should be worried about your response on the ground and helping people.
Well, the CDC is equally corrupt to the WHO, and that's because the CDC is just filled with former big pharma execs who make money selling pharmaceutical drugs to China. That's like how they make their money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I don't know. It's just like there's so many other things that he could have been doing other than to like try. It's really what it appears, and I think it is it's a whole blame game of like the new kind of quote unquote populist right is out there trying to say like China stole the jobs that our corporations moved to China. It's all China's fault. They're the reason why our manufacturing sucks now in our manufacturing sector. But it's like no, like Bill Clinton, like he signed those jobs away. Like there is, and the corporations gladly moved away. Like that's the flaw in the thinking there, and it's just kind of ignoring the role of like, capitalism and money drive.
The problem is that the tech industry controls our information intake. It controls basically everything we do, and they're also extremely based in China. Like the tech industry is completely reliant on China.
I'm talking more about like the
and
manufacturing
getting that
industry.
Chinese market.
Like Ford,
they basically
Nike, whatever, all the big American companies that used to have big factories here, like they don't anymore.
Well, part of it is labor regulations. It's super expensive to open up a factory in America.
And yeah, because there's better standards. Like that's just the way it should be. And the standards were better when there were still companies here. Like not only have jobs moved away, but labor conditions in this country have gotten worse after they moved away. But they're still gone.
Well, it never even occurred to people to outsource manufacturing to China until it became not profitable to do it here. And then they're like, oh shit, where do I manufacture my stuff now? And then they're like, oh shit, China has way too many people.
And also China has like no a bunch of regulations and labor laws. And it's not just China necessarily, it's a bunch of Asian. Like, you can't ignore the role of the government and the reason why we don't have jobs anymore. Like, that's just a big... Well, a very deceitful narrative, I'd say.
China does own 9.1% of our country, like in terms of the debt that we owe to them. So that's a pretty significant. That's like one. That's right. People claim Israel has too much information or influence in our government because we give them $3 billion a year. China, we give them a 1.3 trillion a year.
yeah, but it's like it's part of our debt though. Like we just give money to Israel because we like Israel for some reason.
Well, yeah.
I could get who knows where you could go
also,
on that.
I mean,
but
strategically, China is going to absorb every country in the Middle East except for Israel. So it may not be the end of the world to have that to be an ally. I do think they have too much influence, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for them to be on our side.
Who does?
If China does go through with the whole Belt and Road Initiative.
So if they're trying to do Belt and Road stuff in like every country except for Israel, is what you're saying?
Well, yeah, pretty much. Israel's the only country that isn't in the Middle East that isn't Belt and Road.
I didn't know.
It's kind of interesting.
I don't know much about what they do with the Belt and Road project. I haven't been following that, to be honest with you. I haven't really been following the Belt and Road project.
So that's China. They just give exorbitant amounts of money to these poor Middle Eastern countries to build ridiculous things. And the Middle Eastern countries, they've never seen that much money in their life. So they're just like, oh, yes, thank you, China, for giving me free money. They don't even realize they have to pay it back. And then suddenly they realize that China owns more than 50% of the country's debt, and then China just absorbs it.
Is that what they're doing? Yeah, I feel like, they are incredibly, like, they're definitely going to be rolling a tank through D.C. in a few years if they keep this up.
If there's
and
one
if we continue our
real
trend,
national security threat to our country, it's China.
Yeah, but again, China's one thing, but you can't. At least when it comes to this coronavirus.